He's Gary Payton 2.0. Yes, he comes with some new features, but the tenacity on defense is just as intense as the original Gary Payton. You've probably seen some of his highlights as he's been making his own way through the NBA with the Golden State Warriors. Regardless if you're becoming a fan or have been one since the beginning, here are 10 things about Gary Payton II that hardly anyone knows. Number 10, his net worth. Last year, he was the 550th best paid NBA player. This year, he's moved up the ladder to the 417th spot. He's the 189th best paid guard this year and ranked as the 15th best player for the Golden State Warriors this year, whereas last year he was ranked the 17th best player on his team. And his rise is projected to soar along with his net worth. Last year, reports came out that his net worth was steady at around $3 million. This year, that value has nearly doubled. Number 9, the glove and the mitten. Payton II, aka GP2, the son of NBA Hall of Famer Gary Payton, realized early on that he didn't have his father's natural offensive ability. However, his performance proves that he can score in methods other than getting above the rim, and that is he's highly likely to snatch the rock or intercept it in various fashions. Papa Payton starred for the Seattle Supersonics in the 1990s. In his career, he made 9 All-Star teams, 9 All-NBA teams, won a title with the Heat in 2006, and is considered one of the best defensive players of all time. Gary Payton Sr. was known as the Glove, so even though GP2 hasn't yet reached the accolades of his father, he is still considered the Mitten in reference to his incredible hands and in recognition of his Payton lineage. So according to Basketball Reference, Payton II is sometimes referred to as the Mitten. Number 8, GP2 was not raised, he was cultivated. These days, it's not uncommon for NBA players to be accompanied by their children to interviews and press conferences. Even take a look at Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics, and you'll see his little kid randomly taking the spotlight any given game day. But seeing NBA players' kids as present with their fathers during official NBA business wasn't a common thing in the past. It is safe to say that Gary Payton opened that up, and since he was one of the best guards of the 90s, no one dared tell him that his son couldn't attend. Gary Payton began taking GP2 with him so much during interviews that the little boy even started to receive questions from the reporters. In one interview, he was asked about his son's potential future as a basketball player, and Papa Payton replied, "I hope he grows up to be what he wants to be, but I ain't going to force him to be a ball player or nothing. But he's okay, he's around basketball, he's throwing the ball and doing everything." But as GP2 grew and took interest in his father's profession, Papa Payton was the harshest coach. Which brings us to number 7, GP2 wanted the glory, his father gave him the guts. Reports came out that GP2 was verbally abused by his father during training, and that's nothing new. Toughen up. It all really started as GP2 was trying to enter university via his basketball skill. In order to get his son into college basketball stardom, Papa Payton trained him to the bone. And on top of that training came a host of trash talk that would even make a Vikings blood boil. Papa Payton had a quasi-coach name, and it was Mr. Mean. But there was method to his madness. Papa Payton wanted to make sure that his son stayed away from drugs and crime, focused on his education and basketball career, and could cope with the taunts that he would receive just by being in the NBA spotlight. Even though GP2 never had to grow up in a dangerous neighborhood, the streets were calling. GP2 told the Seattle Times, "I probably knew every drug dealer in Oakland." Number 6, Payton II was originally not motivated to ball. GP2 is quoted as saying, "When your dad is a Hall of Famer, you know they expect you to be great instantly. Just pick up those genes and follow behind that." But Papa Payton, aka Mr. Mean, was relentless. In recollection, GP2 said, "I didn't know how to handle it with him in my ear. It really got to me. Just playing in high school, he used to be there yelling and screaming. I broke down and really got off my game. I didn't want to play." GP2 was specifically recalling an episode that happened in 2010 when he was in high school. He said that his father attended a Las Vegas Spring Valley High School game one evening and was of course anticipating seeing his boy rain on the court. At the time, GP2 was a junior and had just hit a growing spurt, making him almost as tall as his father. Regardless of GP2's physique that resembled his father's, GP2 lacked the eye of the tiger spirit to truly be a contender in college ball, effectively scratching an NBA career off of the table. GP2 just simply lacked the competitive spirit. When Papa Payton noticed his son's lack of desire, he belittled his son with a stream of degrading slurs. Since Papa Payton's coaching approach only had the reverse effect, he sought the counsel of Daryl Jordan and other coaches to guide his son, which comes at no surprise as parents are often the harshest and cruelest instructors. In an interview with SB Nation, Papa Payton confessed he was soft. He was really soft. I just told my son straight up, I don't like your game. I don't think you're good enough to play at the next level or any level. I don't have to waste my time coming here. Imagine your parents being so upset with your gameplay that they tell you, degrade you, and then just walk out in the middle of a game. This is what high school GP2 had to cope with. Number 5, they say GP2 is just like his mother. Papa Payton might have been stone cold on his son, but there's no fault. Warriors are raised, not exactly bred. And GP2 did rise to glory, partially due to his father's tough love, blunt truth, and vigorous training. If the NBA is modern-day bread and circus, NBA players are this era's gladiators. Therefore, there's no room for timid pushovers in the arena. That timid high schooler who once wore his father's legacy like a burden had to do or die. So how did he do it? How did he become such a formidable NBA contender? He's got the personality of his mother, able to balance the intensity called on the court and the mellow disposition for the game of life. He's admitted that he follows his mother's spirit and was never wired like his father. That programming came from his mother, Monique. GP2 is known to be easygoing, thoughtful, and a true gentleman. It's been said that he gets this demeanor from his mother. Monique was quoted saying, GP2 has always been soft-spoken, unlike his father. Number 4, his bond with his father is still strong. His father frequents his games and wears the supportive shirts to remind everyone. Just recently at Game 2, Papa Payton was seen with an illustration of his son guarding him. According to reports, the 53-year-old Elder Payton has already done his job as a father and coach and no longer pushes. Now he just cheers from the sidelines. When asked about it, GP2 admitted, "It's just me and Gary. It's our relationship. There was a moment in time where he stopped talking to me about basketball. I think that's because I was doing a lot better than before. Nowadays, he really doesn't say anything. We just talk about life, family, other sports, and whatnot. But he stopped talking about basketball, so I think I'm doing a pretty good job." Number 3, Gary Payton's GALOUR. GP2 goes by Payton II, not by Payton Jr. That's because his half-brother is Gary Payton Jr. Payton Sr., or so as we've been referring to him as Papa Payton, named 2 of his sons after himself. There is also a third Payton brother named Julian. Monique James and Gary Payton had 3 children together, 2 sons, Gary II, Julian, and a daughter, Raquel. After Papa Payton and Monique separated, Gary Payton Sr. had another son with another woman, who is Gary Payton Jr. Number 2, GP2, aka The Thief. GP2 was so good at snatching the ball from his opponents that his early nickname was actually The Thief. Even more impressive, though, was his versatility. This skill goes back to his childhood, where he discovered that he had a real knack for stealing. As a matter of fact, aside from being a top contender with steals, he led Oregon State in points with an average of 12.4 per game and 8 rebounds. And he ranked second in assists with 3 per game and an average of 1.1 blocks. His talent for stealing is another reason that he has been dubbed the Mitten. Number 1, he really did follow in his father's footsteps. In 2015, dozens of reports came out acknowledging that GP2 was following in his old man's footsteps at Oregon. He was on the verge of making a family legacy in the NBA. History repeated itself as, just like his father, GP2 played college ball for Oregon State Beavers. GP2 became the first player to win Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year twice and ranked 3rd in the nation with 3 steals per game, all the while taking the same position as his father. And that is 10 things you didn't know about GP2. Comment down below.